Welcome, everybody, to this episode of SoulFull Sessions. And I am super excited about the episode today. This is something that I've been really looking forward to doing. Have not found the right partner in this and the right energetic exchange until now. So I am thrilled to introduce you all to Madelaine Parker. And we are going to be talking about all the energies at play between now and the end of this year. And for most of us, it's been tumultuous, it's been challenging. There have been many, many downs, a few ups. But everyone has been all over the map, astrologically, emotionally, mentally, physically. And as most of my listeners know, I am a big proponent of astrology in general. I have begun a really deep inquiry into Vedic astrology. However, Madelaine is a tropical gal. And what I love about working with Madelaine, and she has done a number of readings for me, and we just, as we got to know each other in that regard, became friends. And it's so amazing to me that, like I said, I was doing a deep dive into the Vedic system. And Madelaine was sharing things with me about from the tropical perspective, it was spot on. Like somehow the two really meshed beautifully. And it opened my mind to the fact that both systems, while different, are also very much the same. And you get from it what you need regardless of the methodology. So let me share a little bit more about Madelaine specifically and share with you about who she is and what she does. So Madelaine Parker is a psychic medium and intuitive astrologist with 15 plus years of overall experience, specializing in tarot and astrology, aligning people with their highest, best selves and destiny. Through the healing power of tarot and a side order of astrology, Madelaine can restore faith in the positive force of the universe playing out in your life. And I can attest to that firsthand. After having done thousands of readings and having witnessed most of those reads come to fruition, which is a huge, huge feat, I've got to say, she can help align your actions and thoughts with your deeper, highest knowing of what is best for you. In these times of spiritual bankruptcy, Madelaine has found there to be a deep thirst for the higher, often liberating knowledge tarot divination and astrology can bring. She believes it is a great responsibility to be trusted with people's sensitive spiritual soul's growth. Using the tools of tarot and astrology, Madelaine can help you get back on two balanced feet, heading in the right direction for you and your highest and best life. So again, when I read those words, I feel them to be so true. Those of you who also know me and SoulFull Sessions, I share each of my guests, sun, moon, and rising signs. I'm going to hold off for a moment because I'm going to let the expert share that information. But I just want you to also know that you can find her at Soul, S-O-U-L, Levels, Levels.com. And also on Instagram and YouTube at Hows, like the how to, Hows of Spirit. So Madelaine, can you share a little bit with us about your sun, moon, and rising? And also, you're known for saying it's all about alignment. So I feel like all of these pieces come together beautifully. And I would love for you to share in your own words what all of that means to you.
Well, aligning, that is basically, as I studied tarot, when I first picked up my tarot card deck in 2007, I wasn't aware of what really tarot was about. And every year that I study tarot and I use tarot, as well as astrology, I become aware of even deeper power of shamanic power that tarot potentially really has. And the main thing that tarot wants to do, what I noticed, is align our mind with our heart space. So our mind is our masculine energy, which is our thinking and our action. And what tarot is trying to do, and I channeled a grid, which I use, which has enabled me to be quite specific, and I like to say accurate. But what the grid is trying to do is to have you shift a mental perception that's limiting you, and have you become aware of a deeper lower vibrational wounding in your subconscious, it's dropping your vibrations and attracting and blocking your abundance. So the tarot is trying to align you in positive forces, in the correct thinking around a situation, which is the higher thinking. The cards are always going to try to lead you into a higher way of seeing it and thinking, because our mind is always stuck on what our mind is not capable of perceiving, the enormity of potential that the spirit wants to play through us. So we go with our heart space, we can feel it. And when your mind is connected to your truth in your heart space, you go the right way, because your heart space is connected to the higher forces. So if you're experiencing blockage in abundance or struggles or suffering, you're really just kind of out of alignment. And I really do use the bicycle. It's so obvious, but the bicycle is the clear description of how that works, because when you're out of alignment, you're wobbling all over the place.
So in other words, you're basically, what you're saying is that, oftentimes if there's something in our life that's not feeling good, or we would like to be at point Z, but we're really at point A, and what is keeping us from getting there is, our thoughts are not aligned with our heart, which is the connection to that higher power, to the divine wisdom. So the tarot, in particular, can align that, can shift the thinking so that it is in alignment with the heart, which is then in alignment with the divine plan, if you will. And so and then things just start to shift and fall into place more easily. Is that? And then
exactly. And the other thing is that we're shifting to feminine energetic lead, which is why it's so important to align right now, because if you're aligning, is the feminine energy is in the moment. She's observant of abundance, and she's in a state of observation, receptive. That's feminine energy, right? So the more connected you use your mental energy to know the moment, the more you're going to be guided, the more you're going to know the right way. And right now, with the universe supporting feminine as the initiating energy to start, because for the last 20 thousand years, I'm a bit weak on that, I think at 4,000 or 5,000 years anyway, we've been in the dark ages, which is basically masculine energetic lead. And now we're having the universe is shifting its polarities. And what happens is eventually we become out of balance when we're in too much masculine lead. A frequency of abundance drops in the planet, attraction of abundance drops, because we become into the masculine energy is in a negative polarity, blocking abundance, and the feminine is repressed, wounded, victim feminine. It also blocks abundance. So right now we're shifting into feminine lead, and so the universe has to shift its lead. One energy has to lead at a time. So now it's shifting to heart space lead. So now more than ever, with these shifting energies in this Jupiter Saturn conjunction that's coming up, it's really, and Mars being in retrograde, is really pushing everyone being into their heart space, knowledge of heart space, so that when we initiate this new chapter that we're all initiating in this next new year, actually, we're going to be initiating a 29-year cycle that is in alignment with our soul calling.
So there is a lot of, there is a lot of talk about the shift into the more the divine feminine sort of energy versus the very patriarchal sort of energy that's been at play for quite some time now. Now, for you, and I know I'm going to give it away a little bit, your Sagittarius sun, you've got a lot of forward fire in that masculinity. Can you share maybe a little bit about your moon and your Cancer too? Because I think they may offset that a bit for you.
My chart is definitely feminine. I'm about 2/3 feminine in my chart. So I'm about one, and that's, you see it in I'm moon Pisces, ascendant Cancer. So 2 out of 3 are water, 1 is fire. Mm-hmm. So my Jupiter is in Aries, that's fire. Proud of my Aries Jupiter. Anyway, so the more the watery energies are going to be the ones that are receiving. So if you have water in your chart, you're going to be the one that's going to receive the guidance, right? Because water is the most receptive element. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So water and earth are moved. So what was your question?
Well, so basically what I think is interesting for the listeners is when we share about our sign and where we are, whoever's listening may be like, oh, maybe they're not a Sagittarius sun, but they know a Sagittarius in their life. Maybe they're not sure of their moon sign, but you describe a little bit, about what a Pisces moon is, and they go, oh, wow, that could be me. So maybe just share maybe a couple of sentences about each of your signs in those top three.
I'll start with my moon. My Pisces moon is in the 9th house at 1 degree. So that's pretty potent psychic. I'm basically an astrological channeler. So wherever your moon is going to be where you're very receptive and psychic. If it's in a water sign, times that by 12, times that up. And then, so your moon is where you're kind of sensitive and can kind of connect to the higher realms, whatever house. And my sun is Sagittarius, birthday 12/21. Right on this conjunction.
We're going to be talking about that in a bit. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. And then my ascendant is Cancer, 0 degrees Cancer. And, that's basically, Cancer ascendant are pretty like empathic, pretty much empath. I'm an empath. Pretty much it's all in my chart.
Yeah. So you can literally see it.
Yeah. And I'm just like literally very sensitive to people's energies. I can tell how, water people can tell how people are feeling.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Pretty,
Yeah, very much so. So those who may be listening and go, wow, I really can feel other people. There's likely some water in their chart.
There's a lot more psychic people that don't trust their psychic abilities, because if you're psychic, this is something I really like to tell people. If you have psychic, you may not know that because the positive energies don't invade, but the negative ones do. So there's a lot of psychic people who've had sort of negative, darker energies coming to them, and they just shut it all out. Once you become aware that you're psychic, because I do this a lot with people's charts, I see that they're psychic. Once you allow and invite in the higher frequency spirits, then the lower dark ones are shined out. They don't come back. So I just tell everybody that.
That's very interesting. That might be another episode that we can share a bit more about that, because I would venture to guess there's quite a few people who find themselves in that camp where maybe they had an experience when they were younger and it scared them, and they're like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. So, and now we need as many people as possible to be in that higher frequency. So,
and the spirit are ready, standing by to help everybody. They want to. That's what this ascension, that's what basically this is happening. What's happening on this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, in my opinion, it's really ascension time. It's really when everybody's sort of a mass awakening is going to happen. And then what is that? That's really like when people really start working with the spirit higher forces.
All right. Well, I'm excited for us to get into that. But before we do, one quick question that I ask all of my guests on the show, and just to let everyone know, Madelaine is most likely going to be back on again, so I won't in the future ask her these same questions, because we don't need to go over it again. But since this is your first time on the show, I'm going to ask you: can you tell us about a recent experience that lit you up when you just knew that it was your soul talking to you?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to say when Mars Station Direct, I'll tell you something that really happened was finding this apartment, because I've sort of been nomadic for the last years. All these planets have been in Capricorn. I won't get into it, but it's been hard on everybody. I've been sort of perfecting my in alignment actions, my masculine energy aligning with my feminine, and really following my intuition, really centering on, because that's what's happening, and these energies are shifting. We got to really know that. And I emailed a real estate agent that I was friends with, and I was just, when you're going against Mars retrograde, everything's shut. All the doors are shut if you're going the wrong way. And that day, an apartment opened up for me in a town. And it all came together. The fact that the only open door it was exactly the right price. It was in exactly the right place. It was the day that Mars went into retrograde. I had been here before, so it was a building anyway, it was just so clear the universe was in charge and really lining me up beyond my mind understanding why I'm in this town. And every day that I'm in this town, I wake up even more to realizing why I'm here. And then I just wake up to more and more of how much I love being a tarot card reader. Because when I started out doing this, I did not like that I was going to be psychic, because it wasn't something that the society sort of liked. In my
Yeah.
family didn't approve of it, and it was kind of like, but it's my gift and I can't help it. It's who I am, kind of a thing. So every day that I do this and that I work with people and I see people's faces ignite, and like I through the cards and through astrology, I light and ignite, and I see it in people's faces. That really ignites me. That's why it's so fulfilling, and I love it. And every day I'm so grateful that I'm a psychic, and then I get to do tarot reads, and I get to help people, in their personal lives, which is really the only kind of conversations that are interesting to have with people anyway.
Yeah. Well, everyone loves to talk about themselves, obviously, and you are helping them through your readings, both astrologically and through the tarot cards, to see themselves as they truly are. See themselves.
I see it help them, and I see everybody coming back for more reads, and I see their lives getting better, and I see their relationships getting better, and it's like, I'm like, okay, this is great. I guess I really like it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And like I said, I mean, I can speak from personal experience with Madelaine. She's just not a random person that I chose from the internet stratosphere to have on. Everyone I've had on the show, I've had some sort of connection to in one form or another, and felt like they would have something worthy to share and to give to the
I feel so blessed to be able to share this information, because I do believe it's good information to get out. All this, especially with this awakening coming, we really need spiritual leaders, and I'm a reluctant spiritual leader. Sagittarians, by the way, they're the reluctant leaders.
Oh.
Yeah, they're like, all right, I'll get out and lead against my desires, but I got to do it. And the Leo have dropped these areas. They didn't want to lead in those departments, so the Sagittarians got to come pick it up. But it's just time, for the spiritual sort of, I call it re-evolution, where we're taking spiritualism back from, I don't like to be negative at all, because like what we focus on, we create, but a lot of the religions really sort of made people feel as though they didn't have the power to utilize spiritual, shall we say, operating your feminine is the feminine is the one that operates with spirit. So when we've shut the feminine down, we've shut her relationship with spirit. So a lot of the sort of grid and the religions have shut our own personal relationships with spirit. They made evil divination. So divination empowered the individual to their fully abundant, it enables your abundance level to rise, so it makes you in your autonomy. It puts you in your autonomous power. And that's what the Age of Aquarius is all about, which is coming up in this Ascension period, which is next year. All the planets are going to practically be in Aquarius, which is really when people are standing up and realizing that they have autonomy.
And so that's something we talked about before we began recording. Madelaine is one of the aspects of this phase in time is about empowerment. And so whether we find that power within ourselves on our own, or whether we find it outside of ourselves to kind of, maybe ignite that inner fire within us, and that I believe is one of your gifts, to be able to, hold that space for people, to empower them to, go take a different route, to go a different direction, to really see what's in front of them and see what's in alignment for their highest and best good, like I mentioned in your introduction. So all that said, we've got a new moon eclipse coming up on December 14th. So would you mind sharing with the SoulFull Sessions listeners about how is that going to affect us?
Well, that's a 23 degrees Sagittarius, 22, 23 degrees Sagittarius. So look in your chart, look and see where your Sagittarius is. I highly recommend everybody know your chart. We're entering Age of Aquarius. That is it's astrology. It's the star card in tarot. So knowing your astrology knows you, you don't have to be an astrologist to learn this, to know about your basic chart. It helps to have astrologists work with your chart too. I highly recommend that too. However, you want to know your degrees. You want to know what houses your charts are in, because these eclipses are very, very pivotal. This is going to be a very powerful eclipse. It's also hitting the south node, because the north node right now is currently in Gemini at 23, 22 degrees. The south node will be in Sagittarius. So there is going to be something occurring in the lives of everybody, but stronger if you have a planet or an ascendant or an MC hitting that. You're going to have a really strong hit. You're going to release a limited perception, because Gemini is thinking, perceptions, ideas, information that shifts. In other words, an auspicious opportunity will come in that breaks your mind limited, because it's hitting the south node in the sign of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius tends to have limited belief. Sagittarians tend to have rigid thoughts. Hard to,
So would this be, could this potentially feel a little bit uncomfortable for people who have a planet in Sag, or yeah, so it may be, so I guess what I'm saying here is, for those who have Sag in their chart,
planets like a north node at 20, 22, 23 degrees. My son has his MC at 22, 23 degrees. He is be very auspicious for him.
So you're going to feel a little bit of discomfort, which is then going to become your opening. So it's kind of like that kind of breaking or cracking of a shell that doesn't feel real good at the time, but then once you break through it, you're like, oh, wow.
Well, yes, you could say that. And also, you could also put it like, wow, I didn't know that could have worked.
Okay.
Because it's going to go against a perception, and that perception was limiting you. So the eclipse is going to come in, and an opportunity is going to come in, because it's a very abundant opportunity. So if you don't have a planet there, let's say you just have a Sagittarius over your 6th house and you don't have a planet there, it'll still bring abundance towards your day-to-day routine, and it's a good placement for that. I mean, it'll be a positive.
Okay.
And then, I mean, it in the sense that it's going to bring it's a new moon solar eclipse, so it'll bring new initiations that will bring abundance. It's a very abundant, it's Jupiter. So it's Jupiter, it's like, it's ruled by Jupiter, this eclipse. So it's bringing expansion, bringing abundance. And remember, abundance and expansion, if you haven't felt, and Sagittarians have had a hard time because they've had all this stuff happen, all this Capricorn stellium in their 2nd house of finances. So challenging them to grow up around finances a little bit. So you may have felt a limited experience financially. So when this eclipse comes, you're going to go, wow, this was the way I was going to be more abundant, and I was stuck in some old way.
Wow.
So yeah, it's going to be sort of like it's going to be liberating. And this Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter conjunction on 0 degrees Aquarius on December 21 is also going to be very liberating. So it's a very strong alignment. This is sort of like an initiation for that period. So there's a relationship between this eclipse and the big conjunction.
Okay, so we've got the new moon eclipse on December 14th, and that is in Sag, and it's going to be, a breakthrough of abundance and perception for everyone. However, if you have any planets or anything in Sag, you're going to feel this a bit more.
You're going to feel it stronger for sure. Yes. And if you have a direct hit, I would say your life is changing completely.
Well, and I think we talked about that the last read that you and I had, or maybe it was just in a conversation that, I've got a lot of hits happening all at the same time. And
right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I think your Jupiter is going to be hit by direct. I think you have 29 degrees Sagittarius Jupiter. Sorry. I hope you don't mind me telling your
I do not mind at all. I do not mind at all. I think most people would.
Fantastic, because you're getting a Jupiter and Saturn conjunction on your Jupiter. I mean, that's nuts. And then plus you've got this eclipse in Sagittarius, and I can't remember. I think you do have some planets in Sagittarius.
Yeah.
I think I have your chart here. You've got your Jupiter 29 degrees Sagittarius. You've got your Neptune in Sagittarius, but your North Node is in Capricorn right now. So that's also getting a Jupiter hit right now. So So in other words, right now, Jupiter's about 25, 26 degrees Capricorn. So that's a direct hit on your North Node at the same time. And then within a couple weeks or 3 weeks, we're getting that Jupiter conjunction on your Jupiter.
Which is like,
Crazy.
that is crazy. That is
There's
crazy.
rapid expansion in your life. I mean,
So
I don't know what's going to happen on that day. Something's going to happen on that day because everybody's chart, a lot of people's charts is a complete revolutionary turn in their lives. So I mean, I hope it's good. I mean, I, you know, sometimes hard things happen for change, but the
it's all,
expansion around it will be very positive.
it's always good. It just may not be feeling good in the moment of it happening. You know,
Good thing about it is it's catalyzing. It is not divisive experience now for people. Going into the age of Aquarius is because we're running all these planets. We got Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius is galvanizing. It's bringing, it's because we've been in the last so many years very polarized in politics and all sorts of things. And people, the energies have been very polarized, but this now sort of pulls them together, harmonizes people collectively, making constructive change for the good of all is basically what this conjunction is going to be. You're going to see people stepping up and answering the call of 1111. And that's exactly what this day is. It's the 1111 day. It's the, in my opinion, it's Ascension Day, because the call will be heeded by all to step forward and not make limiting choices in their lives that are fear-based, but to step forward and act in a way that increases abundance on the planet for all.
I love that. I mean, I actually wrote down what you said a moment ago, making constructive change for the good of all. That's what's happening on the 21st, which I think, and your birthday, we'll celebrate you.
I get to pass the message.
Yeah. I think that's really amazing. So, okay, let's kind of fine tune this a little bit. So December 21st, can you tell us about, okay, there's all these planets coming together. Can you tell us a little bit about each of the planets, what sort of energy they carry, and what does it mean when they're all coming together like that?
Well, when you get a conjunction like that, that's the same degrees, which is what a conjunction is you get a blending of the two energies. So you get Jupiter and Saturn. And the other thing that's really notable about this conjunction is that Jupiter and Saturn have been in Capricorn for the last, well, oh gosh, how many years? 2.5 years, and Jupiter's been going back and forth. But anyway, they've been retrograde going back and forth. But anyway, basically, it's been very restricted energy. Jupiter's been in a bit of a Saturn cage because Jupiter's been in Capricorn, which is restricted. It's not a strong position for Jupiter. So it's been held back because Saturn is the rule maker. Jupiter can't ground its vision, and spiritualists and light workers and people who are now going to step up and call the heat of 1111 are you have to, as an empath, and you have to ground according to Saturn. Saturn is the boss in charge, and he sets the rule for how things materialize. You've got to listen to Saturn. So the last years that people have been having a hard time, we've had to listen to Saturn, but also we've had the government restrictions and stuff like that. There's a shadow aspect of it. But when you get all these planets going into Aquarius, you get liberation. You get this experience of getting or let free or let go or let out. So now we're getting both these planets. But still Saturn and Jupiter conjoining, which means no, Saturn is there, but Saturn is going to ground now because Jupiter has grown up to what the rules are to Saturn, to what you got to do. And then Saturn now in Aquarius says, okay, great. Now let's expand together in the light, expanding light, social power, social autonomy. And Saturn is going to ground the will of the people.
So it's basically, if I'm understanding you correctly, we've been in a period where Saturn has been pushing on us to kind of come into our own in a sense. Then we've had restrictions and
right.
That have put imposed rules on us, and no one likes that. That's never a fun thing. But meanwhile, you've got Jupiter that is attempting to expand, but hasn't really been able to. Mm-hmm. Now, with them coming together in Aquarius, Now Saturn is able to, kind of the Mr. Rule maker is able to say, okay, Jupiter, you're ready to expand, and I'm going to help you.
That's right. But
Okay.
but again, the structures, Saturn's still going to keep the structure, but it's going to support a more liberated force. So in other words, the structure's there. Saturn's always going to be the rule, but because whatever Saturn supports happens. Whatever Saturn doesn't support doesn't happen. So now Saturn is supporting a liberated energy. Like there's going to be, so what's going to happen? I'll give you an example. For instance, let's say you've got to go to City Hall and you've got to get a permit. And there's this ridiculous out-of-date rule that charges a leg and an arm for a stupid permit for something people don't really use anymore. Something that doesn't necessarily make sense. Well, Saturn is going to go against the old rule and say, you know what, it doesn't make sense. Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
It's going to make the too rigidness of Saturn is going to release. Like, for instance, maybe there's an enforcement, the law says this, and the policemen say, yeah, but it doesn't make sense to enforce that law on these people. It's not right. They won't enforce it. Sort of something like that. You're going to get people reevaluating the Saturn is going to support the choice that benefits the people. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So kind of to use your example, let's just by
Saturn.
So basically the people that are in charge of enforcing or following this rule are going to say, you know what, we're not going to worry about that. Let's just take care of it this way.
Hey, let's not give you that ticket. The cop will say, I'm not enforcing this. It's not right. I'm letting you guys off this hook.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of a thing where people are going to care more. Honestly, in my opinion, the universe is downloading empathic energies to the enforcers. I mean, I've seen it. I have seen it happen in my own life.
Yeah.
I've seen the City Hall be very supportive of me and because when you lean feminine, you're going to find Saturn supports the feminine leader. I've seen it happen, which means if you go with your intuitive and you're operating to serve the greater whole, and you're not in your fear energy and your faith energy and your motive for your calling, which is very fulfilling and does help everybody, you'll see it. You can see it. You'll get supported by Saturn.
So, okay. So now
your mind doesn't think it will. Even if your head says, oh my God, they're going to get it. Don't worry.
It'll be okay. So does this, how long does this play out? And does this, how does this work with the full moon that follows at the end of the month also?
Well, because this new moon solar eclipse, plus there is a full moon. Well, I think all full moons are releasing things that really no longer serve. So it's very possible that full moon comes in after that day of 12/21, where some sort of a trigger that emancipates people. Something happens that there creates a massive emancipation. And then that full moon is going to close the door on the old. The full moon closes the door, lights up the dark, makes you see something more that reveals and heal. And plus it also represents a certain level of healing you have around it so that you can kind of step up.
So that's really just so beautiful because, if you think about it, this is coming at the end of a really tough year.
Yes, that's true.
Closing the door on that, I'm sure most everyone would be completely down with. Yeah. And then stepping into 2021, having kind of tied the bow on that feels pretty great.
The good news is, the really great news, first of all, this eclipse is a new moon. So that's like powerful because it's an eclipse. So it's double. It's auspicious, right? Good new beginnings that are abundant. And then you get, the full moon on the end of the year, letting that go. Gosh darn it, I lost what I was going to say. I totally lost track of it. Anyway, this eclipse coming in, the solar eclipse. By the way, don't watch solar eclipses. The Native Americans say not to. They say go to water if you do, but really animals stay away from them. There is definitely something to that. And I've seen people watch eclipses and things go crazy for them. So okay, so yeah, so this eclipse is going to initiate for certain people opportunities that will line them up for that 12/21 date. Like astrology is always lining you up to, you know.
Okay.
And
And
if you lose a job, don't worry. Something really strong is coming. So whatever you do lose around that full moon is to enable you to align with the new destiny that you're supposed to align with.
which is really, that's very comforting, I would think, you know, for those who, you know, may arrive at that date and feel like, oh man, like right before the holidays, I've lost this or whatever, you know, recognize that that's just creating space for something even better.
Yeah, the eclipses are really there to knock you in. They knock you hard into alignment. You either go willingly, you go crying. It's up to you.
So would you say that's kind of the overarching theme of any eclipse, is to really just kind of knock you into alignment where you're supposed to be, and it may feel okay because you're ready mentally, you know, you can wrap your head around it, or maybe you're not and it really throws you off, but it's important.
Yeah. If you're sometimes, you know, sort of Aries or certain fire signs are very strong-willed, they tend to have a harder time in eclipses because Capricorn can really work hard in the wrong way, and then they take it really bad. It's a really bad blow to have to turn around and go another way, you know. So certain signs have a tendency to roll with eclipses more, you know, but Cancer ascendants, Cancer people, water people will also feel it emotionally more.
Yeah.
They get
Well,
very
they're emotional. They're emotional signs. So
it moves.
yeah.
They move around. So yeah, I mean, so then we've got that full moon eclipse at the end of the year. So I mean, it's going to be an interesting new year. I'm going to be very fascinated to see what happens. Something interesting is going to happen, and I honestly, I don't think that it's bad. A lot of people think maybe it's bad. I don't know. I mean, in the sense that I don't know. It's like somebody dies or something. I don't know, but really, it's to initiate and instigate a new shift in the era.
I love that. I love that the energy around that concept. And so I know in Vedic astrology, the full moon is on the 29th. Is it in a tropical? Is it on the 30th, or is it?
Yeah, it depends where you are, because where I am in northern Idaho right now, I always get my full moon. I get the moon either a day before or a day after. I'm dyslexic, so I can never remember. So there's always a little bit of a day discrepancy depending on location.
Yeah, so I think
the 29th for you.
Yeah, I think it's the 30th for you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
I don't know what sign that one is in. When is that full moon in? Is it in Sagittarius? Is it in Gemini? No, we had the Gemini full moon last. We had an eclipse Gemini.
I think it's in At least in the Vedic, it's Gemini.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what I have that calendar up. So I don't know in the tropical, but
yeah, I love Vedic too, by the way. In fact, sometimes I think the way I do tropical is similar to the way Vedic do, but I do it on a tropical wheel.
It could be, because like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, like it was so spot on. It was striking to me.
I feel like I got coded. There's a code.
I totally think that's possible. Okay, so we didn't talk about this, Madelaine, but I'm being guided to see if maybe you wouldn't mind doing just a super short card, a reading, just very, very brief, around the energy that is carrying us from the new moon to the beginning of the year, based on what we've talked about. Like maybe there's some supporting information.
So let's see, calling in highs, guides, and angels so that we may be higher guided with more clarity on what is the lowdown on December, the end of this year. What is the message that you could pass on to all of Amalia's wonderful viewers and followers? King of Swords comes out. I'll pull him up. King of Swords.
Beautiful.
It's interesting because I think that King of Swords is, I do think we are really ending stuff too. Like there's a lot of, King of Swords is sort of like making a decision, not being wishy-washy anymore. Then we get the Ten of Pentacles. So this is like everybody buckling down. Interesting world. See, isn't
Oh,
that great? And then this card always represents karma cleared, and all these
the
planets
world, the
have
world.
clear karma, enabling us to resonate at the frequency, which is clear the energies for abundance, because we are elevating to a new plateau. That's a new plateau of abundance. So let's do one more card. Well, Queen of Wands, fire sign, feminine Sagittarius. So this
Mm.
is the time for all everyone to lock into their fire energy, which is their desires, their passions, what fulfills them, their creative force, because it's actually divinely given. Whatever inspiration you have, or fire is divinely made. So fire sign feminine is connected to her desire, what's her passions, what she loves, what she wants to do. That's the choice that's going to lead you to an abundance. So you got to follow your desire, what you want to do. I often tell people, look, you don't know what it is, what your calling is, you can't feel it. Just don't do anything for like an hour. Just sit on the couch, not on your phone, nothing. And just let that desire bubble up. Like let that feeling come in and find out what you actually feel like doing. That's what's going to lead you to you're going to feel like doing it. That's what it is. So
I love that, Madelaine. So, really, so if you're feeling pulled to something, but you don't know what you're being pulled to, it's just sit and just allow it to
yeah,
show up. Okay. So not everyone, not,
put your mind at ease around it. Like don't have an inner argument about it. Don't go,
sorry,
that
I don't mean to interrupt you, but for those who cannot see the card you're holding up, you have is it three or four of swords,
swords. So in other words, follow your desire,
which
put
is the
your
Queen of Wands.
don't let your mind. I hear so many times people when I'm working with them and we lock into their mission and we're really excited about it, they go, yeah, but then I don't know, my husband would never agree on it, or something like that. And I go, look, just trust this desire. The doors open up, the universe supports you. It's that it leads you to your golden bucket of abundance in your life, your health, everything. Because when you're living your passion and you're living your desired life, you literally become healthy.
I love that, and I can speak to that personally myself with my life. Is that I had from the outside what appeared to be like the quote unquote perfect life, and
Right.
inside, it's not that I was unhappy necessarily, but I wasn't really fulfilling the bigger purpose of why I'm here and what I'm meant to do. And the voices will get louder and louder and louder and louder until you start to take some action. And so basically what you're saying right now is based on the cards that you pulled were the King of Swords, Ten of Pentacles, the World, Queen of Wands, and the Four of Swords. So the storyline for that in summary is
the King of Swords. Swords is fire. Air. I'm sorry. Swords is air, Aries. I'm sorry, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. So that is the North Node right now. So there really is information, knowledge, decisive decision making. So we're hitting that and then we get the Ten of Pentacles in on the knowledge. So knowledge becoming clear and decisive, making decisive choices around knowledge of where your abundance is. And it is by serving the world. And then you're going to become also knowledgeable that the potential to achieve abundance through following your calling will become clear. This King of Swords is to make it clear what that is.
okay.
And line 1111 means that's why people see 1111 right now. That is the age of Aquarius. That is Ascension time. That means aligning with your higher will, with the divine calling, the reason you were made. So it's about aligning with your higher purpose, your higher calling. And that's actually where your true life's fulfillment lives.
So true.
So it's the call to do 1111, align with the divine, align your actions with divine will, which you will know through heart.
And I think that there's one aspect of this that I just want to clarify for the listeners is when we talk about the divine feminine, it doesn't necessarily mean just women.
Nope.
You know, I had I did a mindful men series recently where I was asking men about, you know, their thoughts and their feelings and their perceptions of masculine and feminine as a duality within each of us.
Right.
And it was fascinating to hear their answers to that, because as women, we recognize, most women, I'm not going to categorize everyone, but most women recognize we have a masculine and a feminine qualities in us. Most men shy away from and do not like to even think about the fact that they may have feminine qualities, because that's perceived in this patriarchal system as weakness.
That's right.
And so it's so important that not it's the divine feminine and the rising of this feminine energy is really just about being more emotionally connected and having that spiritual connection and thinking about other people and having that connection of compassion and kindness versus who, you know, I don't care who I have to step on to get to where I want to be.
That's the frightened male. That's a frightened man. And a lot of the male energy within even feminine have frightened male energy. Yeah. So what has to happen within every individual is to awaken their inner feminine, because most people, their feminine has been asleep, inactive. And the feminine is 50% needed energy to materialize abundance. It takes both forces. That's why when we go into feminine lead, the feminine restores balance, because she knows both energies are equally needed at 50%. And so repressing the feminine energy, not when she's asleep, she's inactive. She's not co-creating with the masculine to create abundance, which is to work with spirit energy, because the feminine is receiving of the guidance as to how to materialize abundance.
Yeah. So it's they're working hand in hand in tandem with one another. So if you have a balance of both,
right,
it's just
every individual person has to have an inner feminine awakening where they operate now with her. They utilize the feminine energy within, which is to activate a relationship with spirit.
Yeah.
You know? Because the reason the abundancy frequency rate of the planet is dropping is because of the dual energies. There's lack, there's too much materialism, and everyone thinks, oh, materialism is negative or bad, or because we have two forces, one is physical, one is spirit. We have to have a balance. That's the 8. That's what 8 represents, is the dual energies in positive frequencies at the frequency of 8, which is very positive, in alignment, causing effortless abundance, like the cow that eats grass and poops and fertilizes the grass and creates an effortless flow of abundance. That's what the universe is trying to get us to do. That's what divination is trying to get us to do. Positive masculine, positive feminine, which is healed feminine, open-minded masculine, adaptable mental masculine, adaptable.
Well, you know, I think it's interesting that you're bringing up the materialistic nature, as it's so heavy, you know, one way, where there's nothing wrong with the desire to have material goods or to, you know, like certain things and to appreciate that. It's about that balance of it not being the single driving force for you, and you taking advantage of other people in order to access these material goods. It's the balance between the two.
And literally, if you operate in negative masculine energy right now, you're literally going to block abundance. You're going to notice that a lot of the ways that people manifested finances via more masculine or abundance through masculine sort of strategizing, thinking, or, you know, invasive or stealing or frightened, you know, or trying to compete or something. I mean, competition isn't bad, but like you know what I'm talking about. But their abundance is literally going to be blocked. It's going to feel like, if you're operating in your masculine energies too much, you're going to feel like you're carrying a bag of boulders up the hill.
That does not sound fun.
No.
Personally, I would not like that.
Lean on your feminine. Masculine need to lean more on their feminine, and they are. And by the way, in indigenous cultures, they've never threw their balance out. They stayed very much in their feminine and balanced, because they know their livelihood is dependent on their feminine. They know it. So when they go hunting and when the masculine go out, they adorn themselves. They make themselves really feminine looking. And a lot of the men in the world that wear pink and aren't afraid of pink, they really attract abundance. When you take a masculine man and you polarize it with some feminine, you get instant attraction of abundance. It's a very powerful partnership. So like a lot of like Aries ascendant will wear pink. And I know one who's a millionaire, he used to wear pink pants. He wasn't afraid. They're not afraid of appearing gay because they're intuitively aware of the attractive forces of the feminine energy. So when you get a man that's willing to do both of them, instant abundance. Men ought to wear jewelry and they're afraid of being gay, but actually what you're doing is you're creating androgyny. You're creating both the energies in balanced state.
That's beautiful, really. And with pink too, if you want to look at that, the color itself, like the way I see the heart chakra is, it's a green energy, but it has this beautiful pink center.
Yeah.
And it's, and working with, I don't know if I want to use the term working, but when, tuning into yourself, when listening to yourself and co-creating in your life, your heart is a huge part of it. Your soul is also a huge part of it. I feel like you had something else you wanted to add, and then I have a final question for you. Did you want to add something around the heart or the pink or the souls?
The heart chakra really goes straight up. It's your soul umbilical cord to the divine. And maybe another time I'll do a drawing and explain how that works. So your heart chakra is literally the thing that the divine, because your soul goes all the way up to source, joins with source. And source is basically just everyone's soul's connected. And it connects us all through our heart space. So the more you get guided by heart, the more you're following a higher will. So it's kind of like your true guide. And then you also have solar plexus, which is gut intuition. That's really where the soul, the divine wants to empower us through the divine light, solar light, through our inner low self-esteem. People tend to go like this. When you've got a clear center chakra, that's where really our power comes back to us through that center chakra. That's like another conversation. But so yeah, I think that was what we were talking about. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and so basically this brings me to a beautiful segue to the final question I have for you, Madelaine, is what rituals, if any, do you have to tune into your soul's voice or, quote unquote, bring your soul online?
Tarot.
Holding up cards, everyone. Our tarot cards.
I mean, tarot are my everything. I love them. Every time I meditate in the mornings, and I'll just pick one card out and I'll just sit there and I'll ask Spirit to really help me integrate that message or understand what it is. And it's just, I'm very visual. I like looking at pictures. Sometimes I'll even take cards with me on a walk because I'll get a question. It's the way I talk to God. And it gets me out of that's the beautiful thing about tarot is it pulls you out of your limited thinking. My thinking is limited. So I always need to get out of my thinking. So that's how I do it. I love pictures. It inspires me.
Well, that's fantastic. 'Cause I've had other guests on who have had all these, everyone's got their own things. And I've had a few with elaborate rituals and all of this, but yours, it's very simple.
Yeah,
you turn to your cards.
I'm a meditative walker. I love walking. And I live in an area where I can walk around a lake. It's so pretty. But yeah, it is very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple, my practice. I have very worn out cards.
But they're beautiful because they're now so in tune with you, like it's, you have a very close relationship. Because I know with my cards, the cards that I really resonate with, like they are worn and but they feel good. They feel
right.
good.
Yes. I go through them though, because I do it for, work. So I do go through cards a lot. I have to buy new ones because they get bent and crooked. And I have a ratty tatty deck that I bring with me when I go on walks. If it falls on the dirt and the mud, I don't care.
That's good. You have a system. So, all right. So Madelaine, remind our listeners where they can find you.
Right now, just so you know.
Pardon?
It was just 12:21 right now. I
just
wow. Yeah.
And
anyway,
where I was,
yeah.
in my time, it was 3:21.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So what was your, well, yeah, you can email me, Madelaine Parker, Madelaine Parker 111 at gmail.com. And my YouTube channel, House of Spirit, and Madelaine Parker, and also Instagram, House of Spirit. But anyway, so thank you
Awesome.
so much, Amalia, for doing this. I think it's great that you're doing a spiritual podcast. I can't tell you how auspicious I think that's going to work out for you because of what I know astrologically. So I
Well,
love it that you're doing this. Good for you.
well, I am honored and blessed that you were willing to come on my show and to share all of your knowledge and wisdom with me and with the listeners. And just so everyone knows, I'm going to have some information in the show notes about where you can reach Madelaine if you missed that a moment ago. Also tell a little bit about her if you want to learn a little bit more. Website, social media, and email. And again, thank you so much, Madelaine, for being on the show. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to this episode of
Yes,
SoulFull Sessions.
thanks. And hopefully I meet some of you.
All
Nice,
right.
nice to be here. Thanks, Amalia.
Oh, you are so welcome. All right. Until next time, everyone, this is a wrap for
Almost.
SoulFull Sessions.